The final stage after a draining relationship is not just the absence of pain, but the complete integration of a new awareness of who you truly are. Many women believe that healing ends when the crying stops. However, Carl Jung teaches us that true closure only occurs with individuation. This is the point where you cease to be defined by the toxic experience and become the architect of your own psychic and spiritual wholeness. Reaching this point requires a silent courage to look inward and rescue the fragments of your soul that were left behind in the pattern of control. Most stop on the path to basic recovery, but there is a level of freedom that few manage to access for fear of facing their own light. At this stage of maturity, the image of the emotionally immature person loses the magnetic glow that previously kept you trapped in an orbit of confusion and guilt. You begin to realize that the emotional manipulation you suffered was, ironically, the bitter fertilizer that forced the growth of much deeper roots in your self-worth. The final stage is marked by a clarity that no longer allows any invasion of boundaries to go unnoticed by your new and heightened senses. It is a transformation that occurs at the core of your being, where inner silence ceases to be frightening and becomes your refuge of peace. The journey to this awakening requires patience, but the fruits harvested are the unshakable foundation for a life of self-respect and renewed dignity. For Jung, the individuation process is the encounter with the self, the regulating center of the psyche that guides us towards our deepest and inalienable truth. When you reach this stage, external projections lose their power, and you recover the energy that was previously drained by others' unempathetic behavior. You become immune to the mirror game of manipulation because you now possess an inner mirror that reflects your essence with clarity and unconditional love. Few women achieve this sovereignty because it requires total detachment from the need to be validated by those who never had the capacity to see their soul. It is a rebirth that demands the sacrifice of the old survivor identity to give way to the fully conscious and sovereign woman. This stage of liberation is the moment when your narrative stops being about what was done to you and starts being about what you have built. The peace that emanates from this achievement is contagious and serves as an elegant shield against any future attempts at control or psychological pressure from the outside. Have you felt that you are close to this turning point, where the pain of the past transforms into wisdom that guides your every step? Sharing your perception in the comments helps strengthen the healing energy we are building here for all women seeking peace. Take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, ensuring you receive the support you need to reach this stage of heightened awareness. Total reconstruction involves embracing both your strength and your vulnerability, understanding that both are essential parts of your journey towards the light. By integrating the toxic experience as a learning chapter, you remove the sting of emotional impact and transmute resentment into the power of discernment. The woman who reaches the final Jungian stage does not harbor hatred, for hatred is still a connection, and she prefers the freedom of polite indifference. This is the awakening that redefines your future, allowing you to walk with a lightness known only to souls who have crossed the desert. The invitation is for you not to stop halfway, but to continue steadfastly until your complete and radiant inner liberation. One of the most complex pillars for reaching this final stage is confronting and integrating one's own shadow, as proposed by analytical psychology. In relationships marked by manipulation, we tend to project all the light onto the other person at the beginning, and after the impact, we project all the darkness without looking at our own wounds. Real maturity occurs when you remove these projections and understand which internal gaps allowed that pattern of control to find space in your life. It's not about guilt, but about reclaiming authority, where you recognize your vulnerabilities to strengthen them and make them inaccessible to new manipulators. By illuminating your shadow, you cease to be an easy target for others' lack of empathy and become a fortress of conscious lucidity. Jung explained that what we don't make conscious in our minds ends up manifesting in our external lives in the form of a repetitive and often painful destiny. Women who reach the final stage interrupt this cycle of repetition because they have cleared the filter through which they viewed relationships and the intentions of others. They stop seeking in the outside world the approval that was denied to them in uncomfortable, intimate situations and begin to nurture their own internal source of validation. This movement requires radical honesty with oneself, a gaze that pierces the illusions of the persona to touch what is real and permanent in one's soul. It is a work of psychic goldsmithing, where each hurt is polished until it becomes a jewel of clarity and silent strength for the future. Removing projections means admitting that the emotionally immature person was a cruel teacher who, unintentionally, taught you to establish non-negotiable boundaries for your peace. By ceasing to see the other person as an invincible monster, you reduce their figure to the real size of a limited human being lacking the tools for affection. This perception is liberating, as it removes the weight of the impact they still exerted on your thoughts and daily life choices. The final stage is when you look at the past and no longer feel the tremor of pressure, but only the calm of someone who has learned the lesson. Integrating the experience is what allows you to move towards a new beginning without carrying the ghosts of a draining relationship in your emotional baggage. In this phase of rebirth, your intuition, silenced for so long by emotional manipulation, speaks again with a clear, loud, and extremely reliable voice. You begin to trust your instincts absolutely, recognizing warning signs in seconds and acting quickly to protect your integrity and self-worth. The woman who integrates her shadow does not fear the conflict necessary to maintain her self-respect, for she knows that her peace is worth more than any superficial harmony. She becomes selective, elegant in her choices, and deeply connected to her own life, purpose, and happiness. The transformation is visible in the sparkle in the eyes of someone who no longer allows their light to be obscured by others' shadows or old fears. Have you noticed how your intuition has changed and become your greatest ally after going through such a profound and challenging cycle ending? Many women report that this sixth sense is the greatest tool they've gained after rebuilding their identity and willpower. Tell us in the comments if you can already hear that inner voice clearly, and subscribe to the channel to further strengthen your awakening. Being accompanied by someone who understands this language of the soul makes the path towards wholeness much safer and more inspiring. The final stage is within your reach. You simply need to continue cultivating this perspective focused on your own magnificent inner transformation. For Carl Jung, deep healing involves balancing internal energies, and after a toxic experience, the receptive and feminine side is often shaken. The final stage requires you to heal your relationship with the sacred feminine, restoring your capacity to receive care, beauty, and affection without the constant fear of betrayal. Relationships with controlling patterns tend to harden women, forcing them into a state of alert that distances them from their most creative and intuitive essence. Reaching the end of this process means allowing yourself to soften your defenses without losing the protection of boundaries, finding the strength that resides in conscious gentleness. It is a return to the source of life, where you allow yourself to feel the flow of emotions in a healthy and balanced way. Reconstructing the wounded feminine involves redefining what it means to be loved and how you allow yourself to be treated in all your social and intimate interactions. The emotional manipulator tries to destroy a woman's confidence in her own beauty and worth, leaving scars that only a dive into the waters of the unconscious can heal. Jung believed that by healing our relationship with internal authority figures, we regain the power to dictate what is acceptable in our present reality. In the final stage, you no longer accept crumbs of attention because your soul now demands the feast of genuine and constant respect and reciprocity. The transformation is a turning point where you stop begging for crumbs and assume your place as queen in your own inner kingdom. This awakening also involves healing the lineage, recognizing behavioral patterns that may have been inherited from previous generations and that now cease within you. Women who reach this level become the turning point in their families, ensuring that the cycle of lack of empathy and manipulation is not passed on. It is a noble responsibility that demands a profound internal change, transforming personal pain into a legacy of awareness for the future. The final stage is, therefore, an act of love, not only for yourself, but for all the women who came before and those who will come after. You become the guardian of a new pattern of relationship based on clarity, truth, and unwavering self-respect in the face of any external pressure. By reconnecting with your creativity, you begin to bring to life new projects, dreams, and desires that were stifled during years of manipulation and psychological pressure. The vital energy, which Jung called libido, flows back into areas of your life that bring pleasure, satisfaction, and a renewed sense of divine purpose. You discover hidden talents and a passion for life that seemed to have died, but was merely hibernating under the snow of emotional numbness caused by the impact. The final stage is vibrant, full of real colors and woven from experiences that you now choose with care and elegance. Paralysis gives way to movement, and doubt gives way to a serene certainty about your ability to flourish in any soil. Have you ever felt this rebirth of your creativity and the desire to start something new that reflects your new identity and your quiet, resilient strength? This is a clear sign that you are entering the individuation stage, where healing becomes an active manifestation of life and progress. Share your new dreams with us and subscribe to the channel to become part of this community of women who are courageously rewriting their stories. Its reconstruction proves that the human soul is capable of regenerating and shining with even greater intensity after the storm. The stage of its life is ready for its best performance, now free from external scripts and petty manipulations. In the final stage after the impact of a toxic pattern, silence ceases to be a form of defense and becomes a manifestation of power and clarity. Jung emphasized the importance of introspection, and the woman who achieves wholeness knows that she no longer needs to explain her truth to those who refuse to understand it. She understands that silence is the ultimate boundary, an elegant barrier that prevents the energy of emotionally immature people from draining her vitality again. Reaching this point is discovering that your peace is worth more than any attempt to prove your point or expose the lack of empathy of others to the world. It is a liberation born from the inner certainty that you know who you are, and that is enough for your happiness. Maintaining this conscious silence is what allows healing to become permanent and your energy to remain focused on your own growth and reconstruction. The emotional manipulator feeds on reaction, whether it be pain or anger, and by denying them this fuel, you break the bond of psychic dependence. The final stage is marked by a healthy indifference, where the figure from the past no longer triggers any anxiety or need for revenge. You feel free because the shadow of the other no longer has a hook to cling to in your strengthened and integrated psyche. Silence is the frame of a soul that has found its center and no longer allows external noise to dictate its rhythm. This silent power is also reflected in how you choose your new connections, preferring the quality of presence to the noise of superficial and draining relationships. You become an attentive observer, capable of identifying patterns of manipulative behavior in the first interactions, without needing to get emotionally involved to confirm your suspicion. The clarity gained in the final stage acts as a natural filter, attracting people who vibrate at the same frequency of consciousness and self-respect that you now emanate. It is a maturation that brings a natural elegance to your social life, where your strength is felt even without the use of many words. Your silence now communicates that you are unreachable by mental games or the immature ego pressures of others. Jung believed that the secret to mental health lies in the ability to withstand the tension of opposites until a new synthesis emerges in our consciousness. The woman who reaches this final stage has endured the pain of betrayal and the hope of healing until these forces unite in an unwavering wisdom. She does not deny what she has lived through, but neither does she allow the past to govern her radiant present, full of new possibilities for being. Silence is the womb where this new synthesis was gestated, far from curious eyes and the opinions of those who have not walked the same difficult path. It is a solitary achievement in its essence, but one that connects her with the strength of all women who have also chosen truth. How have you been using silence in your current life to protect your energy and strengthen your emotional clarity after the closing of a cycle? Do you realize that talking less about the past has created more space for your new awakening and your powerful inner transformation? Share your story about the power of silence and subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring the depths of the feminine soul in the light of Jung. Your path to absolute liberation is our focus, and every insight shared here is a step towards your total sovereignty. Silence is now your greatest ally in building a future where peace is the non-negotiable rule. For Carl Jung, the transcendent function is the mechanism that unites the conscious and the unconscious to create a new way of living, free from old complexes. In its final stage, this function allows you to see the draining relationship not as a mistake, but as a necessary step in your spiritual maturation. Few women reach this point because it requires letting go of the victim role and embracing the role of conscious protagonist of their own evolution. Totality is felt as an integration of all your parts, including those that were wounded, creating a resilient and profound identity. It is the qualitative leap where you stop merely surviving and begin to live with an intensity and clarity that were previously impossible. This psychic synthesis brings a sense of inner security that doesn't depend on external circumstances or changes in the behavior of others. You become your own foundation, your safe haven, and the emotionally immature person becomes just a footnote in your vast and rich biography. The final stage is the realization that the pattern of control failed to touch the core of your soul, which remained pure and untouched all along. This awareness is what Jung called the hard-to-reach treasure, the reward for those who had the courage to descend into their own depths to rescue themselves. The transformation is complete when you realize that the light you sought in the other was always shining, silently, within you. To live in totality means to act according to yourself, without the need for masks or personas adapted to please those who lack empathy. You allow yourself to be authentic, with your boundaries well defined and your voice echoing the truth of your lived experience, wisely integrated. The final stage is marked by a spiritual awakening where you feel connected to something greater, a force that guided you through the desert to rebirth. Life takes on a flavor of absolute freedom, where each choice is made based on your own worth and your clear vision of the future and peace. It is a state of grace that few know, but which is available to every woman who decides not to conform to emotional paralysis. The transcendent function clears the path so that new relationships, based on soul and true reciprocity, can finally flourish in your new garden. You no longer attract the same manipulative behavior patterns because your frequency has shifted, becoming incompatible with egos that seek only control and external validation. The final stage is the guarantee that you will never again lose yourself to fit into another person's limited world, no matter how attractive they may seem. Your silent strength is now your most reliable guide, and your clarity is the compass that always points towards your well-being and constant evolution. The reconstruction is complete. Real life, in all its conscious fullness, begins now for you. Can you feel this shift in frequency and the power of the transcendent function acting in your life, bringing new people and opportunities aligned with your value? This is the pinnacle of Jungian healing, the moment when the caterpillar finally becomes a butterfly and discovers that the sky is its new limit. Comment on this feeling of freedom and subscribe to the channel to celebrate each step of your magnificent journey of liberation. We are honored to walk alongside you in this final phase, where suffering becomes awareness and shadow becomes radiant light. Your wholeness is the greatest gift you can give to the world and to yourself, today and forever. Upon reaching the final stage, you regain control over your destiny, which for a long time was held hostage by the needs and whims of a manipulative person. Jung stated that when the unconscious becomes conscious, destiny ceases to be something imposed from the outside and becomes an internal and sovereign choice of the self. The end of the control cycle occurs when you realize that there are no more emotional hooks in your psyche where tactics of guilt or pressure can take hold. Your turnaround is complete because you are no longer expecting anything from that draining relationship, not even an apology that would never come sincerely. You are now the only authority capable of validating your story and defining the next chapters of your luminous journey. The new beginning that starts at this stage is grounded in the truth of who you have become after the trials by fire of life and soul. The woman who undergoes Jungian awakening does not fear the future, for she knows she possesses the inner resources to deal with any challenge that comes her way. She becomes an example of awareness and reconstruction, inspiring others to seek their own liberation and healing from toxic and debilitating patterns in society. The final stage is, therefore, an arrival point and a new starting point, where the horizon is vast and full of promises of peace and true satisfaction. You have learned to distinguish the voice of the ego from the voice of the soul, and this is the greatest wisdom a human being can achieve. Maintaining this clarity requires continuous vigilance and a daily commitment to the practice of self-respect and meditation on your own unique worth. The world will continue to present challenges, but in the final stage, you face them from a position of silent and unwavering strength at your core. The lack of empathy from others no longer hurts you, because you understand that it is a symptom of the other person's limitation and not a measure of your worthiness. The transformation has turned pain into a shield of tempered glass, transparent but extremely resistant to any attempt at invasion or emotional disrespect. You inhabit your body and your life with a presence that commands respect naturally, without needing aggression or harsh words. Many women who come here report that the greatest gain was the loss of the fear of loneliness, transforming it into a fertile solitude full of discoveries and simple pleasures. They discover that the best company is their own, and that any future relationship should be an addition to this fullness and never a need for completion. The final stage is the definitive closing of a cycle, where the door to the past is closed with a golden key and the window to the future is opened to the fresh air of freedom. You are ready to love again, but this time from your totality and not from your neediness or your open and exposed wounds. Rebirth is real, it is yours, and it is the most beautiful manifestation of the transformative power of the human psyche under the light of consciousness. Do you feel that your relationship with solitude has changed, and that you now value your peace more than any company that doesn't bring respect and worth. This is one of the most important milestones of individuation and the final stage that few women are able to access with such depth and clarity today. Tell us about your journey of solitude and subscribe to our channel so we can continue nourishing your soul with wisdom. Your conscience is the greatest treasure you possess, and protecting it is your most sacred and rewarding mission in life and for your soul. The cycle of control is over. Your era of emotional sovereignty and profound peace has begun. In this advanced stage of healing, the social persona ceases to be a survival mask and becomes a tool for the authentic expression of your inner strength. Jung explained that a healthy persona should be flexible and transparent, allowing the light of the self to shine through it without distortions caused by the fear of others' judgment. In the final stage, you no longer feel the need to pretend to be okay, to please others, or to hide your scars to appear perfect and unshakable. Your radical authenticity becomes your greatest elegance, attracting people who value truth and depth above the superficial and manipulative appearances of society. You move through the world with a dignity born from the integration of all your experiences, transforming them into wisdom and radiant awareness. The reconstruction of your social image is based on the truth of your journey, where the closing of a cycle is experienced with a nobility that dispenses with unnecessary explanations or expositions. You understand that your history is a sacred heritage, and that only those who demonstrate empathy and real respect deserve access to its depths and secrets. The final stage brings a natural selectivity, where you filter conversations and environments that do not vibrate at the same frequency as your new awareness and self-respect. The transformation is felt in your posture, in your calm tone of voice, and in your ability to say no, with a gentleness that does not accept replies or negotiations. You have recovered your brilliance, but now it is a brilliance tempered by experience and the clarity of someone who knows their own worth. This final phase also involves forgiving yourself for having remained so long in a draining relationship, understanding that that was the version of yourself that had not yet discovered its own light. Jungian forgiveness is not an absolution of the other, but a liberation of yourself from the burden of regret and heavy, unnecessary self-criticism that hinders your progress. By embracing your journey with compassion, you close the last cracks through which emotional manipulation could try to return through guilt or remorse. The final stage is the peace of mind of someone who knows they did the best they could with the tools they possessed and now has much better tools. Rebirth is a process of self-granting a new chance to be happy, free, and fully aware of your divine sovereignty. The woman who achieves Jungian wholeness is one who has transformed her trauma into an awakening that illuminates not only her own path, but that of many others around her. She becomes a silent source of strength, someone whose mere presence communicates that it is possible to walk through the fire and emerge renewed and even more beautiful. The final stage is the celebration of life after the pattern of control, a hymn of gratitude to her own resilience and to the wisdom of the unconscious that never gave up guiding her. The transformation is definitive because it is not based on external changes, but on an internal revolution that has altered the foundations of her soul and her perception. You are at home in yourself, and from now on, you walk under the light of your own magnificent, absolute, and radiant consciousness. How have you been practicing this radical authenticity in your daily life? And what changes have you noticed in your new social circles and friendships? This selectivity is a sign that your self is in control and that you have reached the final stage of healing and individuation that we all seek. Share your experience of authenticity with us and subscribe to the channel to strengthen your journey towards peace and absolute wholeness. Your awakening is our greatest inspiration, and each step you take toward the truth is a victory for all women seeking liberation. This final stage is your new gift. Enjoy every moment with the peace you have so courageously earned. Reaching the final stage after a toxic experience means that the emotional impact has been transmuted into a clear and luminous vision of your future. Jung described transcendence as the mind's ability to go beyond the limitations imposed by traumatic complexes, creating a new psychic and social reality. At this point, you no longer spend energy trying to understand the other person's lack of empathy, as your focus is entirely on the infinite possibilities of your own expansion. Liberation is feeling that the past is merely a library of lessons learned and no longer a prison that dictates your emotions or your daily fears. You have regained your right to daydream about projects that bring joy, purpose, and a sense of mission accomplished on your earthly journey. Rebuilding your vision for the future is based on pillars of security and self-respect that have been tested and proven in the most difficult battles of your soul and heart. The final stage allows you to plan your life with a clarity that was previously obscured by the fog of manipulation and constant, cruel psychological pressure. You feel free to explore new paths, new talents, and new connections, knowing that your inner compass is calibrated with the truth of your conscious self. The transformation is a leap of faith in life, supported by the certainty that you have survived the worst and are now ready to enjoy the best. Awakening is the light shining before you, showing that the path is now smooth, elegant, and filled with real and lasting peace for you. Jung stated that the goal of human life is the realization of our own wholeness, and you are experiencing this realization in every conscious choice you make today for your own benefit. The final stage is the moment when you become the master of your own energy, deciding where to invest your time and affection with a wisdom bordering on the sacred. The emotionally immature person of the past has become merely a shadow in an old story, powerless to affect your smile or your inner and outer tranquility. Rebirth is the blossoming of a consciousness that knows that happiness is an inner state that must be protected with steely boundaries and silken smoothness. You are vibrating at the frequency of maturity and peace, and the universe responds to this new vibration with opportunities that honor who you are. The turning point is celebrated with silent gratitude for your own courage in not giving up on yourself during moments of deepest darkness and doubt. The final stage is the recognition that healing is a process of radical self-love, requiring the expulsion of everything that does not vibrate at the frequency of respect and truth. The woman who reaches this stage is a survivor who has become sovereign, a student who has become master of her own emotions and destiny. Transformation is her crown of consciousness, and she wears it with the elegance of one who knows that true beauty comes from an integrated and whole soul. Move forward towards the light, for the final stage is only the beginning of a life where you are, finally and forever, the sole owner of your peace. Can you already visualize that bright future where the past no longer holds any weight and your peace is your absolute and non-negotiable priority every day? This vision of the future is what fuels your transcendent function and ensures that you continue to evolve towards your psychic, spiritual, and conscious wholeness. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue nurturing this vision and strengthening your journey towards total liberation under the light of Jungian psychology. Your victory is our joy, and each chapter of your reconstruction is a hymn to the resilience of the conscious and radiant feminine soul. The final stage is your safe harbor. Anchor your life in the peace you have so deservedly earned. Reaching the final stage means establishing an emotional sovereignty that no one can shake anymore, not even the most manipulative figures who may cross your path in the future. Jung taught that individuation culminates in a peace that surpasses common understanding, as it is based on the integration of all aspects of lived and felt human experience. In the final stage, you inhabit the center of your own psyche with an authority that dispenses with the need for external recognition to feel complete and secure in your truth. The cycle is fully closed when you realize that the emotionally immature person no longer has access even to your thoughts in an intrusive or painful way. You have become unreachable by the pattern of control, because your frequency of consciousness now inhabits much higher and more refined planes of being and feeling. Unwavering peace is the result of years of inner work, of silent tears transformed into clarity, and of sorrows transmuted into self-respect and radical, authentic dignity. The final stage is the calm after the storm, where the sea of your mind is clear and reflects only the light of your inner sun, the sacred and divine self. You move with a grace that comes from the soul, treating everyone with respect, but demanding the same standard in return without needing to utter a single harsh or aggressive word. Transformation is your new skin, an armor of light that protects your essence, while allowing you to genuinely connect with those who possess real empathy. Awakening is the realization that you are your own healing, and that the strength for a new beginning has always been kept within your resilient heart. Jung believed that the end of the journey is the encounter with one's own inner divinity, and in the final stage after a draining relationship, you touch that spark of pure and eternal life. Liberation is complete when you forgive yourself, love yourself, and respect yourself above all things, transforming your story into a beacon for other women lost in the desert. The final stage is the apex of healing, where the survivor gives way to the integrated woman who does not fear the past and looks to the future with eyes of conscious hope. The turning of the cycle is the celebration of your rebirth, a sacred event that marks the beginning of an era of peace and real satisfaction in all areas of your life. You have reached the stage that few reach, and now your mission is simply to be happy in the fullness of your own magnificent absolute consciousness. This stage of emotional sovereignty guarantees that your new garden will be cultivated only with flowers of respect, truth, and profound reciprocity in all social areas. The final stage is your liberation from the cave of projections into the light of conscious reality, where you see things as they are and accept them with wisdom and peace. The reconstruction is complete, and the final work is you, a conscious, strong, gentle woman, fully in control of your own blessed destiny before the universe. The final stage is your life's gift, the reward for your integrity and the relentless pursuit of your own light amidst the darkness of others' immature emotional manipulation. Walk with your head held high, for you have arrived at the place where peace is your only and sovereign rule of life and soul, today and forever. Do you feel that unshakable peace beginning to settle in your heart, replacing the anxiety and doubt that the pattern of control tried to plant in your mind? This is the definitive sign that you have reached the final stage and that your self is fully integrated and in command of your new and radiant journey. Thank you for joining us, and we invite you to subscribe to the channel so we can keep this flame of awareness burning brightly in your life and soul. Your sovereignty is our goal, and each video is a tool to ensure you remain steadfast in your wholeness and unwavering peace. The final stage is your home. Enjoy the sweetness of having found yourself and been forever liberated under the light of Jung.